So there's a saying, team, that if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Now, I love that quote. It's amazing. That is what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, sometimes I just need a fucking fish. Okay, I just need a thing right now to get me started in my journey. When I'm finished my Cert 3, Cert 4, I really don't have any guidelines or spaces to where I need to go to improve and increase my journey. So where's my next step? So I've got this qualification, I'm as green as grass, and I'm expected to make a bunch of money or make a career out of a potentially difficult space that I don't necessarily know. I go on a lot about how the course should be an apprenticeship, not a cert. So you shouldn't do it over the period of 3 to 6 months. You should do it over the period of 3 to 4 years. We're going to go a little bit into why that is. Firstly, just like an apprenticeship, it's always a fantastic idea to get yourself a mentor as soon as possible. If I was a plumber and I want to become a plumber, I'm going to look at other plumbers around the area who can offer me some skill sets and some learning along the way. I don't just jump in. So if I'm a personal trainer and I've just finished my Cert 3, Cert 4, or I'm a coach of any discipline, whether that be for sports or for whatever, I don't just jump in and try to figure it out, because unfortunately it means that firstly, you won't make as much money, you won't progress as quickly, and also the people that you hurt along the way will become the learning tools to build up your platform. That is not what we want. We're not trying to use people as projects. We're trying to help people along the way. The quickest thing and quickest way to do that is have a mentor who already has a safety net of what you can and cannot do, so that way you don't have to make the mistakes that they likely made when they were starting this journey. Now, mentorship, finding one, is a lot easier said than done. In the space of personal training, unfortunately, we're very dog eat dog. So at the minute, for whatever reason, we're all competitors to each other. So if you and I were in the same gym and there were 100 clients available to us, my goal in that space is to get as many of those clients to me as possible to make the most amount of income. And you being in that gym with me, you're a competitor. You're potentially taking away the opportunities that are in that space. Now, that's a really poor platform for beginners, because for those who do stick around and figure out how to make personal training and coaching work, they absolutely have the systems to take the clients off you or make it so the clients don't want to divert over to your space. So the only way to fix that is that finding mentor figures who are happy to share clients and share experience. Now, why do I choose mentors who are happy to share? Mentors who are at the upper end of personal training hopefully have the issue, and if they've done some of the courses that we've discussed and some of the programs that we've put in place, hopefully they should be at a surplus of clients where they can't take any more on, or they might need to now delegate their skill sets to different things. So they might need to now go into more of a marketing space, more of a business management space. They might be looking for employees. Their time is monopolized. They are busy. That's awesome for you, because no one gets busy in this space with an affordable income unless they've made something work. So one of the first things you're going to do when you're looking for a mentor, and this is step one, is find a mentor. We're going to look for someone who is doing what you're doing at the end of their journey. So you're trying to find someone who is doing the stuff you want to do. So if you want to work in a gym, I would suggest finding a mentor in a gym space. If you're looking for an aquatics teacher, someone who teaches people how to swim, I would go to that space. If I'm looking for a rugby coach, I'd go that way. An AFL coach, I'm going that way. Jiu-jitsu instructor, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But find an instructor who's doing what you're doing or doing what you want to do, who's also making the money to facilitate it. Okay, that's the key. They can't just be doing it. They have to be making evidence or displaying the fact that they've made this thing work. Anyone can be busy and poor. It's about being busy and making success, okay? So that's step one. Find someone who actually knows what they're talking about, who's making money and has a surplus of clients, so that way they don't feel bad delegating more to you. That's exactly what we want. Not a bad idea if they already have a reputation of helping people. So when you go in for interviews, ask some of the other PTs if they're being mentored and if someone's helping them with their journey. They might not be, they might be. When I'm looking for a mentor, I'm looking for a couple of things in the space that they're in. Let's keep it to personal training and gym, just because that's where my expertise is at the minute. I go into a gym, I look for a couple of different things. Is the gym boutique? So there's a high amount of cost to go there with a moderately to high amount of clients. So if there's only 10 clients and it's $100 per client a week, not bad, but of that 10 people, I might only be able to score one. Okay, so all of a sudden it might be a bit challenging to make an income. If I'm at a gym that is moderately priced, let's say it's $50 a week, like a CrossFit gym, and they have 200 clients, now I have access to a different demographic that obviously is a little bit happier to pay a middle or an interesting leveled price, but also I have a larger pool to be able to pull from. And then I'm also looking for a mentor perhaps in a space that has 1,000 clients, like an Anytime Fitness, but only charges $20 a week. So different benefits from different spots, and you'll find different mentors in each area. Okay. But when we're looking for a mentor to help us with just clients, get us as many clients as we possibly can, the cost is irrelevant because we understand this is a learning process. We might find a mentor in an Anytime Fitness space. They're likely to have a large amount of clients who aren't necessarily paying a lot, but you get the exposure to things. So those big conglomerate gyms, the mentors in those spaces are usually really good at marketing, really good at selling, and really good at client accumulation, because their main focus, if you think about it, is getting the most amount of clients in, charging them the little as much as they can, so charging them a very low amount to keep people in the space. So regardless if you go to the gym or not, you still want to use the space because it's too cheap to bother quitting, and the quitting process is too frustrating to bother leaving. So those big gym models are always focused on getting clients in, not necessarily giving the clients a good service. So from a personal training point of view, looking for mentorship, the guys in there will definitely have a quick onflow of new clients all the time. And then you just need to see are they focusing on retention or are they focused on new client accumulation? Because the gym model kind of suggests that they would be looking at getting lots of new clients in all the time, which is good for a beginner because most of the time, if you are successful in being able to get them their results, once they've lost the 10 kilos, if you don't have another thing for them to work on, you'll lose the client, but they are happy because you've given them the result. So having the ability to get more clients all the time is really, really useful as a skill. As well as this, since those gyms are really proficient at getting new clients in all the time, a skill set that you might need to learn from the mentor in that space is how are you getting so many people in? What is the frameworks that these Anytime Fitness, Planet Fitness, World gyms are using to get more people in all the time? So those are really valuable skills. And you've got to decide if those are skills you want in the beginning. So remember that if you're starting off, finding a mentor in that space is really good. They are the majority of the gyms floating around, so you'll probably be able to find mentors quickly in those spots. The challenge is those mentors aren't necessarily incentivized to educate higher up, particularly in programming and in the health space, because a lot of their programs are written for them by people at the top end, so that way they don't have to think about stuff, which is fine. Having pre-written programs is awesome because it means you can start right away, but when left on your own to try to adjust and understand why the program functions, they might not necessarily be able to help you with that, because it's one thing to be able to read and do something, it's another thing to be able to understand why it's written. Okay, so it's like the difference between being able to drive a car and being able to make a car is huge, right? Something to factor in. Okay, so that's general gyms. That's the cheap on the lower end gyms. When we're looking at mentors in that middle space, that CrossFit space, usually they have to have an extra level of qualification. So you can't just be a CrossFit instructor or a Pilates instructor off the PT certifications. Usually they'd have to have gone and done further education. And because of that, they can charge more in those middle level gyms. That's awesome. Because although there's less people, it means that if you're a premium product or you're a personal trainer who has an expensive product that works, that is awesome, which I do encourage you to build, and we'll talk about that another time. If you've got a product that's $1,200 for 12 weeks or whatever it be, those guys in the middle sections of the gym space are used to paying a little bit higher premium because they traditionally appreciate what the service is more. So at the lower end gym, if you have 100% of people who go there, 80% very rarely go at all. They're just paying the membership, and 20% are regulars, okay? Just to give you an idea. When you're at those middle gyms, when people are paying $50 a week, it's usually about the other way around. 80% of the 100 who go there all the time. They fill out the gym, and then 20% go intermittently, okay? That's why you can't have, the classes are usually so big, but it also means that there has to be caps inside the gym. There can't be 1,000 people in the gym, because if 80% of your people are rocking up, then 800 people in a small space just doesn't work. Okay, so there is a cap there. Now, the benefits is that the mentors in those spaces are usually a little bit more qualified, as well as you have access to a client base who is happier to spend a little bit more money. Okay, that's good. That's if you want to make some cash. The cons is that if you like this content, check us out on any of the social medias, YouTube's, Facebook, Instagram, leave likes, leave comments, or message us directly if you want to get in contact with any of the coaches to have a look at your own program or to invest in some of the mentor opportunities that we have. You yourself will have to be a little bit more educated. You might have to spend a little bit more time investing in your own education to get better in those spaces. Let's say you need some CrossFit qualifications or some powerlifting qualifications or some running qualifications, whatever the club requires. You'll need to spend time in that. And it's also originally a niche to begin with. So when we're doing the huge amount of people, you will discover your own niche. You will find which clients you like to work with and which ones you don't. When you're in the middle space, the niche is almost certainly chosen for you. If you're in a CrossFit gym, a powerlifting gym, a running gym, a rugby team, whatever, they already know what they're doing, okay? So this gym has those pros that you will make more money, and the mentors are usually a little bit wiser in their skill set, but it also means that a niche is decided for you. So instead of you getting to decide a niche, you also might have to do a bit more of your own program design, okay? These are things to consider. When we move to the really high-end gyms, so I'm thinking stuff like physio clinics or physio-related gyms. I'm thinking of those really specific high-end elite powerlifting gyms, elite CrossFit gyms, elite bodybuilding gyms, elite running gyms. The actual membership might be $200 a week. You could even have an elite kettlebell team, right? It might be $50 just to walk in the door and then $300 for a personal training session. It is expensive. And because of that, the clientele that come in are usually a bit higher rollers. It also means that there won't be as many of them. But when it comes to pricing on stuff, when you've got to haggle and negotiate, not that you should ever haggle, but when you're negotiating your pricing before you take clients on, you'll usually start a lot higher. So you have a potential to make a lot more money, but you won't have as much access to clients. So in this space, your mentor should have a couple of different skills. They'll be a lot more niche in what they can do, but they're very, very good at it. So they have very specific qualifications around things, which is great. And they're also good at marketing to a very niche group. So this is a great space to go to once you've kind of got all your foundations done. And there's no harm jumping between mentors. The idea of a mentor is they train you up enough that you've gotten everything you can out of them, and then you move to the next mentor. Like, no mentor who's good expects you to be with them forever. They're training you to be as good as them and then encouraging you to be better. And that's how you're building this network, okay? Again, as I've mentioned, the industry is quite selfish. So we really do want mentors who are giving and understand that that's not always going to be the case. It's when you find a mentor who is happy to give you as much time, as much education, and guide you along the path, keep them. They're amazing. But they are unicorns. They're very hard to find. Okay? You eventually, once you've become educated using these programs that we've discussed and the systems that we're talking about, you will become that person and pay it forward, which will help shift this weird competitive nature of our industry. But for now, any mentor is a good mentor, someone who can kind of get you to your space that you need to be to allow you to grow before you even begin your first year of personal training. But understand that there will be a point of diminishing returns where you now need to break through the next mold to get to the next pay bracket and to the next skill set. Okay? Keep that in mind. It's okay to leave mentors. It's okay to jump between different spaces. It's all good. But do take your time, find a mentor first, because if you're just trying to have a crack at this on your own, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. That's okay, but let's save you the hassle, okay? So that's step one. Find yourself a mentor and things to consider. Do they have skill sets, clientele, or do they have access to money? Okay, what are they doing? What can you learn from them? Are they going to teach you the marketing, the selling, the programming? Or are they going to help you make a fantastic product? What can they offer you and how quickly can they offer you? or are they just a generic mentor to give you the basics to allow you to make mistakes in the space? Inside your mentorship space, you've got two options. There are percent models and there are rent models within the gym and coaching space. So what does that mean? It means for a rent model, if you're in a traditional gym space, I might charge you $250 to be a coach within my gym, and then any money you make past that, you keep. Okay. Not bad. It means if I'm confident that I'll make $3,000 a week, 250 might not really amount to much for allow me to film in their space, market in their space, use all their equipment. I don't have to worry about the upkeep. I don't have to worry about the cleaning. And I might be able to use that $250 as equivalent of a learning membership. So I understand that $250 gets me all these things, but also access to the coaches in both PT, coaching, marketing, and selling that I want. Okay, that's one way to look at it. You also have percentage models. Now, percentage models is that you are either donating time if it's like a sporting team, or your coach is taking 20% off the top of what you make. So the 20% model or the rent percentage model is really good at the start, because if you have no clients, which is not likely you will, you'll be able to make no money, make all the mistakes you want, but you're not getting charged to do that. Eventually, as you make more and more and more and more, that percent model looks better and better for your coach. Okay, that's great for him. He's invested in you making as much money as you can because he gets 20% off the top. So that's another thing to consider, okay? Not many coaches do that because it's more to the benefit of you, the personal trainer, not so much to the gym owner or to the mentor. So when that comes into conversation, it's really worth considering. It's great for your first couple of years until you're making, hopefully, thousands of dollars off your group classes and your PTs. And then it might be worth discussing with them where if you can lock in a price or something like that moving forward. That's how I started. And my first 6 months, I made very little money and it didn't much matter because I was on a percent model, which is awesome. Okay. So I'm a sucker for the percent model. But if the mentor in the rent model has a lot of skill sets for me to learn and might even offer me a free 3 months to try to figure it out, which a lot of the gyms do, I might be inclined to go there if I'm confident in my skill set. So if I change mentors or change gyms, I might go from a percent model, if it's possible for you to find one, into a rent model because I now have the skill set from here that I can take further on. But that's a conversation for another day. So that's mentorship, team. Find a mentor, find one quick. And if we're thinking about this as an apprenticeship, our first year should look like this. We should, whilst under a mentor in a space that we're happy, take on every single client I possibly physically can. Why, you ask? Because I'm trying to help you find your niche. Trying to solve the world's problems of fitness and health is a foolish endeavor because there's too many parameters to factor in and you're only one person. Unless you're an absolute elite, it's not likely going to happen for you. Even the people who make squillions of dollars in the industry have niches. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bodybuilder. He makes money and sells to bodybuilders or people who want to build muscle. Okay? He doesn't try to fix the whole world's problems. He tries to fix a group's problems. And that's what I want you to try to understand as well. The more clients you can take on, this is what I'm talking about, try and take on as many clients as you can of different demographics. The quicker you're going to learn what you like to do, as well as what you don't like to do. That's the main thing, is once you take on a client of a demographic or a couple of clients from the demographic, let's say kids, you might really, really love teaching kids or really, really hate teaching kids. Either way, you're going to find out real quick, okay? Narrowing down what you like is really, really important. Particularly in your first year, you're going to make the most amount of mistakes and you have the most amount of learning to do, okay? So you need to try to figure out how to apply programs, how to apply basic nutrition, how to talk to people, how to adapt programming for people as they move, how do I entertain a group class, how do I let the program work for me, not work the program me over, not let the program work me over, okay? These are really important skill sets you have to develop. You need to hear the common questions. when you're starting off, lots of people in specific demographics have the same problems. So if you're working with a weight loss community, they're all going to have the same problems. And you need to hear these complaints and these concerns over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that way you can identify the 5 to 10 things that are probably going to come up in your demographic the most. Then you can start tailoring and building answers to these questions and solutions to these problems to allow you to be a better coach in those spots. Every demographic is going to have hundreds of problems, or you need to only solve one demographic or two demographics problems, because otherwise you're going to have to learn thousands of solutions and it's just not time effective. So in your first year, once you're learning the groundwork, you should be taking as many clients as you can, learning some basic selling, marketing skills and basic nutrition skills so that you can start developing the best product as you possibly can. Now, good idea in this space is to use one of the templates we've given you, use some of the templates your mentors gives you of programs and nutritional coaching. Because right now you don't have the knowledge to truly write your own. Have ones that are ready to go that we know work, because your mentor or stuff from our website and program and videos work, because we know, because they've been timed and tested. Use them on your clients so you'd have less need to think. Okay, you're driving an auto car. The car does all of its own work. Eventually you need to drive the manual, but right now we're just driving auto. I'm more focused on not hitting a tree than I am about changing gears, okay? You've got to develop the skill sets of communication and the skill sets of selling and marketing and adjusting as you're going throughout your day as a coach before you need to worry about the actual how to write, how to program, and how to develop stuff, okay? Have single-tracked minds. If you try to diverge your attention to too many things, it's just not going to have much success. So, first year, as many clients as you can of different demographics, so that way you know which ones you hate and which ones you don't, okay? Use programs pre-written by your mentors or by trusted sources like us that you know work, because you might have tested them yourself or your mentor has tested them hundreds of times. Use those so you don't have to waste the brain power whilst you're trying to learn 1,000 other things, and so you can start making an income quickly, okay? Also, start keeping in mind the same principles towards your nutritional education. You cannot be a coach without having that nutritional background as well, because that's going to be the next logical question once people start training and they start plateauing in their results, no matter what your field is, okay? You don't have to be an expert in nutrition. You just have to be able to provide enough information that you can help people with their services or with their sports or with their goals. That's your first year. Now, second year, if you've gotten that far, you've done really well. If you're in this video and you're basically a second year personal trainer, meaning you're 2 years, you've finished your degree, your certificate, you've done 1 year of training, now you're in your second year of your next financial year, you've learned a lot. You've also learned a lot of stuff that you need to work on. For example, now you should probably have a better understanding of which demographic suits you best. You might have a vague idea, but we're starting to tailor more and more to a group that you can help. You might have been a male like me trying to run a group class for women and found that although the intent was really good, you didn't have the looks or the skill sets to teach that group. You might have been a petite woman who was trying to teach a powerlifting group for men and found that it didn't work out for you for no other fault than it just wasn't the right setup. That's okay. You might have found that you are a 40-year-old dad and you opened up a teens class or teens programming and smashed it because you yourself have a teens child. So you understand some of the things that need to be done for them. Usually your niche will kind of represent what you do and what you look like, okay? That's a good rule of thumb. If you're having trouble finding your niche, think about what you like to do as a trainer and what you like to do for training, as well as what you look like. Good rule of thumb, if you're not training and if you don't look the part of the demographic you're trying to sell to, it's unlikely you will sell. I would never take nutritional advice from a fat person. I would very unlikely take strength and conditioning advice from a fat person. I certainly am not taking running advice from someone who doesn't know how to run. I wouldn't take driving advice from someone without a license. You wouldn't even bring this up in conversation. If you don't know how to sail a boat and I'm learning, I wouldn't take your advice. So why would I take your advice as a trainer if you don't look the part of the thing you're trying to give me the advice on? So something you should be considering inside of your journey is trying to look as much of the part of the thing you're trying to do. Your other alternative is be so well educated in the space that you're trying to teach that as soon as someone talks to you, it is evident that you know exactly what you're talking about. Okay? In jiu-jitsu, the best coach in the world is long since been hasn't competed in many, many years, if ever, because his body's so broken, but is so intelligent in the space, it's unarguable that he knows what to do because all of the people who train under him are highly successful. The best case scenario is that you both look the part and you also speak on the part effortlessly and are incredibly knowledgeable on the topic. So let's tie that into what we're looking to do in the second year of your education, in your second year apprenticeship of personal training and coaching. This is the time to start writing your own programs. So we're still using our templates, we're still using the knowledge, we're still developing things, and we're still learning our marketing, selling, and nutrition. But now I want you to grab a program, grab a client you have in mind, and I want you to write 100 warm-ups, 100 main bodies of the workout, and 100 cool downs in relation to the demographic or person that you have in mind. 100. Okay. When you have 100, you should have 100 complete programs. Now, I'm going to be a bit of a dick here. When you've done your 100th program, I want you to throw them all away. Let me tell you a story. My mentor, when I was in my second year of the apprenticeship that is personal training, asked this of me. He asked me to write 100 programs for a mixed training class. So classes that are trying to lose weight, gain muscle, and stay fit and unbreakable for long term. So mixed meaning does a little bit of everything. And I eagerly ran away and I started writing down all these things. I was writing warm-ups, I was Googling, I was using some of the textbooks that I had bought along my way. Some of it starting to get niche. I started understanding I wanted to be more of a rehab specialist. So I started trying to add that thing, boom, boom, boom. I was feeling really confident. And I came to him about 3 months later after I'd finished it all and I felt it was perfect. And I slapped it on his table. It made a big thud noise as it hit. And he's, oh yeah, very impressive, man. I'll have a look at them. I left for the day feeling really, really excited. And at the time, I was still cleaning the gym because that was my role. And I found in the bin all of my programs. And I had that moment of, oh shit, like they must have been terrible. I immediately was deflated. And when I approached the coach about it, my mentor, I was like, hey, I saw you throw the programs out. He said to me, would you have been confident with every single one of those programs if I went over it with a fine tooth, with a fine comb? And I said, well, there was a couple I would hope you'd kind of skim over. He says to me, when Goku went to Master Roshi, the Turtle Master, to learn the secret technique to be powerful, he made Goku wear a bunch of heavy weighted clothes and shells and did training. And he said, once you can break a boulder with your head or fist, the specific boulder out front of Master Roshi's house, I will show you the secret technique to be powerful. And Goku trained and trained and trained and trained, did everything he was asked with these heavy weights, and eventually he breaks the stone. And Master Roshi reveals that there actually was no secret technique to doing and being fantastic. It was actually the training with the load that built his skills. So it's the same in programming. Your 101st program will be the one that's any good. I won't even really entertain program design when I'm discussing with newer people until they've written evidently by hand or on the computer individually 100 programs. Not one program that's repeated 100 times, 100 individual programs. Because by the 101st, we can start actually dissecting what problems you're running into. This is the same, and your mentor should talk to you about this, the same in your marketing, the same in your selling, okay? When you're trying to market things, you should be doing hundreds of reps. And when you're trying to sell stuff, you should be trying to sell and rep hundreds of times. There's a good rule of thumb, it's 100 and 100. So if you ever watch Alex Hormozi, he talks about the trick to success is 100 hundreds. Do something 100 times for 100 days in a row, and you bet your ass that at the end of it, you'll have success. And it's exactly the same in programming. Your 101st program gets you to the dinner. Your 1001st program gets you to the ball. Okay, this is what really intimidates PTs, particularly second years, because it's a lot of work. That's why I'm trying to narrow it down for you. If you were trying to write 1,000 or 100 programs for the whole world, it would be just far too much. But since we've niched it down to a very specific clientele, we know what the problems are, because last year we started hearing these problems. We now know the things they want solved, which makes it easier to program the next steps. And the best thing is since we chose a mentor, we have something to fall back on. We have their 1,000 hours worth of programming in case something goes wrong, okay? Or you can use the templates that we have provided. That's the second year's journey. They are trying to hone their skill, sharpen their blade. At the end of their 1,000 years, their samurai sword is so sharp that they can cut down trees effortlessly. Since personal training is such a multi-skill required business, we try to hone each skill as much as we can so we can then move to the next thing. At the end of your second year, if you've done truly 1,000 programs, you will sure as shit know exactly who you're trying to sell to, as well as exactly the problems, as well as the things that are holding you back to the next step in your journey. Okay, you might find that you're a CrossFit coach and you're a damn good CrossFit coach, but when a client gets injured, you now don't have the skill set to be able to rehab them, and you have to refer them out, which then loses that client. Does that make sense? So you've now hit a bubble that you're losing clients to other skilled people because you don't have the skills to fill the spot. That's okay, but if you might identify that as a problem in your business, and if that's the case, you now need to learn that skill set. So that's your second year. Third year, team, is the best year because you've done a lot of the groundwork and now it's time to make some damn money. Okay? So in your first 2 years, you're doing a lot of one-on-one time because that's the best time to practice and use your programs. Because if every program you write brand new, every single client, every single time for 2 years, you'll probably knock up about 1,000 programs just from that. Okay? But it's not time efficient, nor is it effective. However, you need to do that so you can write the giant templates that then you apply for the majority of your clients. So a little insight is that the majority of PTs will get so good at answering the questions that their demographic has, they can then write massive templates that moderately resolve all the problems and then just slightly change it to fit whatever specific client they have at the time that's in their niche. The best way to do this is to test these giant programs that you write. You start opening up group classes. Why? Because hopefully your books are full by now because people are identifying that you're really good at your niche through your second year. So now you don't have any more space that you can allocate in your day because you're just too busy. Now we have options. We can either increase our prices. That means we have more money and more capital so we can do more things. And that will knock off some of our client base, but then leave room for the next lot. So that way we can start moving our wage up. Or we should be doing that anyway, but we also can start diverting clients who we might not have to help 100% one-on-one and putting them into group classes. So you can start using the people who you either no longer need to help because they've hit their goals, or people who don't need your attention 100% because you're saving it for a higher needs client or a higher paying client. And you can start putting them into your group classes where you're testing your main thing. So my mentor mainly ran group classes because we understood that's where all the money was. And then when it came to very specific needs, there would be a really high premium for his hour of time, as it should be. But the majority of his money was coming from the group classes. Now, when you're learning in this third year to be great at group classes, this is where the time you put into your program will really show. What do I mean by that? If your program works and is clear and is easy to demonstrate, all you need to do is be there for the class. You show the class a couple of things of the ideas you're trying to do around the program. You show them how to execute stuff. And if the program is tight, it will run itself. The clients will just follow through it with you slightly every now and again guiding the way. It will dramatically reduce the amount of work that you have to do in the programming space because you just have to make sure that one program is good, and that can eventually become your PT programs as well. But more importantly, is since all these skills you spent in your first and second year developing and answering the questions of the need of your niche, you can now apply to a huge group. And I can charge $50 a week per client and have 100 clients, and all of a sudden I'm actually starting to make a lot of money, but I don't have to work as much because I can do 2 group classes a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, and charge $50 for the week, so they get 10 classes, although they probably won't attend them all. And now I'm only working 10 hours a week for $50 an hour per client that I get. So if I have 100 clients, which is quite reasonable for a group class spread over the thing, now we're looking at $5,000 a week for 10 hours worth of work. So it's a no-brainer. This is the time to start experimenting with your killer offer, your killer skill set, to try to make as much money as you can, because with the more money will allow you now to learn the harder skills that will come in the cert, the end of your level 3 and the end of your 4th year, which again is where it starts getting a little bit difficult. Okay. So let's recap that 3rd year. I want you to start tailoring your skills. You should now, since you've done so much programming around your topic, you should know where your limiters are, and you should be trying to educate yourself in those spaces so that way you can provide better service. But more importantly, you should be trying to apply all these blanket terms and all these blanket ideas over a group class, because that's the true test if your program's any good. Okay? Because if your program's really good, it will sell itself, it will market itself. Within your 3 years, again, we're trying to keep it program related, but at your 3rd year, you should now be getting pretty damn good at marketing and selling your product, which becomes easier again if all these people are getting results and you have ability to take videos and film a large group of people at your space doing your thing. It's also a good time to start negotiating with your mentor, because obviously you'll be making a lot more money. So now it's time to either change your rent model or start looking at the next step for you, which is, of course, the 4th year. The 4th year is a little less sexy, okay? You're now making your money. You're now probably a little bit more time efficient, and you're getting a lot smarter at how to program. You might only look at the templates occasionally or use them just to write your own stuff. That might be 100% reasonable. But since you've niched specifically, it's a lot easier to write the things you're trying to write, okay? Your 4th year is all about becoming your own business. So what does that mean? It means that when you're going through this process, you're now making enough money that you can start making decisions on stuff like reinvesting into your education, which you should have been doing the whole time, but more importantly, looking at what's the next step, okay? So you're at this point now where you got to ask yourself the question, where the fuck am I going? What am I trying to do? Am I looking to buy into the same business that my mentor has me in? So you're trying to become a partner? Are you looking to open up your own space? Are you looking to go online so you can hit more of the demographic that you're targeting? Are you looking to become a part-time coach? Are you looking to study up and become the next level? Are you trying to solve problems like rehab, becoming an exercise phys or a physio? Like, now you have the capital, and now you have the money, and now you have the understanding. You can start deciding where to funnel your resources. The best thing to do is, while you're still getting all this income in the safe space, you start doing little side hustles, testing what your next step is. So you might start looking more at the business runnings phase. So you might do a little course on business. You might have a chat to your mentor about the costs and realities of you buying into his space. You might look at stuff like testing an online model, see how much lead generation you can get. You might start looking into some of the strategies around marketing and selling. You might even just start looking into some of the real estate opportunities into building your own business and the costs and realities of that. Okay. You should start developing your plan on how to become your own man, your own business, your own function. Okay. That's the big step, and it's a scary step for the 4th year. But you might decide that you're happy running group classes and doing personal trainers out of someone else's gym. No one is saying that you have to become your own dude. You don't have to open up your own gym. You don't have to open up your own anything. Okay? You don't have to do any of that. But you can. That's the beautiful thing of it. Ideally, you're helping other people. You might even start looking at using this extra cash that you've made, funneling that into other employees under you so they can run your group classes now they're tailored, and you can focus on just increasing the amount of money you make. All this stuff is really relevant. All this stuff is really good. You've got to just figure out what you want to do and where you're going. No idea where you're going, then if you have no idea where you're going, if you're fumbling around in the dark, you're going to get nowhere quickly. Does that make sense? So your fourth year is about becoming a businessman, learning the lessons and doing all the stuff. Okay. Very challenging year because it's a little bit broad. I would be talking to my mentor. I would be seeking a new mentor, perhaps in the field that I want to get into. If I want to go online, I would talk to someone who has a successful online business. If I want to open up my own gym, I would look at someone who's opened up their own gym. A lot of the Anytime Fitness and World Gym spaces are all just associations. They're actually a conglomerate. So someone has opened that up and they've just put the blanket and of Anytime Fitness over a gym they were going to open up. Okay, not a bad idea. So these are things to consider, and these are things to talk to your mentor about. Ideally, if your mentor is kind and is understanding that eventually you are going to outgrow them anyway, they might direct you into the direction, they might direct you to the next step or to someone else to help you for the next journey. Okay, they might even tell you what not to do because they tried it themselves. Okay, but only now that you're making the money that's appropriate to be able to help you are you able to take the time to make these decisions. Since you were so busy for your first, second, and third year, hopefully you've now been able to really make yourself time efficient because your programming no longer needs work because it's getting pretty tight. Your nutritional understanding and group classing or whatever your nutritional expertise is now tight, and you have a easy flowing marketing selling system to bring people in, aid them, give them the best possible thing you possibly can do for the best price that suits you, and that then allows you more time and more capital to do more things. Okay, now it's time to make the bigger decisions, but obviously it takes 3 years to do that. So if you decide to, in your fourth year, you want to open up your whole new gym, understand that it took you 3 to 4 years just to get the basics that we're talking about done and to build the client base that your mentor already had. So don't expect stuff to happen overnight. Any of these big decisions that you're trying to add to your business, you will get a big dip before you then get a rise. And you have to make sure that the dip you hit is equal or less than the rise you'll get. Because if you get a big dip and you only get like a 10% increase in what you were doing, I would argue that perhaps that 30 or 40% dip in market isn't worth it. Okay? These are things to consider. Okay. Now, that's the fourth year. That's the fourth year sorted. In your fourth year team, you might want to investigate what's the thing that's restricted you the most for your niche clientele. Because in your fourth year, if you're having trouble understanding where you need to go next, find the point of most resistance and most friction where people struggle helping the clientele of your group and find a solution for that area. If you're the best in Australia or the world at dunking on basketball or rehabbing shoulders for a personal trainer in powerlifting or increasing whatever the biggest friction is, you then put yourself in the most nichest position so you can charge the most amount that you want because you're one of the only people around who can solve that problem. And when you develop the clientele to talk and tell everyone that you can solve this problem, you then become a really high commodity trainer, and those are the kind of people who make the most amount of money. So if you're really struggling, you don't know what to do, you don't want to open up a business, you don't want to buy in with the guy you're working with, but you also don't want to stay where you are because you might have had complications, or perhaps you've jumped a couple of different spaces already, which again is fine. The idea is to find your own mentor. Ask yourself, what is the biggest problem that my clients keep running into? And then ask yourself, can I remove that problem and do it quickly? Okay. Firstly, if no one else is fixing that problem, you're golden. But if people are fixing that problem and you really think that's still a point you want to touch on, see if you can do it quicker than everyone else. And that's then how you can start charging the big money, which is good. That's what we want to do. So you've done your fourth year and now you've graduated. You are officially a personal trainer by all regards. You have all the basics down. You have all of the templates. You have all the books. You have all the things that allow you now to have the most baseline level of education. Remember, a fourth year, a fresh graduate is not the same as a plumber who's been doing the job for 40 years. Their time and reps will always beat everything always. So, by this time, hopefully you've done a couple 100 hours of marketing, a couple 100 hours of selling, a couple of 100,000 programs or thousands of programs written, hundreds of people served in your demographic. You're now decently good. So you've done about 10,000 hours, decently good at what you're doing. And now you can start going off and helping other people. One of the key things I really, really ask you to do as someone now who is a graduate, you have finished you are now functionally the mentor that you wanted when you started. Okay. Try your best to help the next person along because, firstly, you're going to potentially need employees anyway. Loyalty is a very hard thing to build in this industry, but giving stuff for free and becoming the mentor that you really needed because you know what you needed and didn't get, become that person to help the next generation. And that might then lead you to understanding what kind of business or sell you want to make. You might go the same direction we are, where you're trying to help the most amount of people in the endeavor of increasing the business. And then from there, be able to make income off the higher end personal trainers who need help with marketing, coaching, and everything in between, building people up. That might be somewhere you go. You might decide to go online. It doesn't matter, but become the mentor that you needed. You are now an expert on what sucked, and you now can help the next person to make this journey a little bit easier. Nothing is more rewarding than helping someone else. Okay. And you might be able to marketize it, who knows? But really focus on these things. Okay. Become the mentor you wanted. That's the trick. I want to quickly talk now, team, particularly now if you're either at the beginning of your journey or you've graduated, it doesn't matter. All the skill sets we discussed still apply, and it doesn't matter if you have to jump between first year, second year, third year. You could be a personal trainer or coach or whatever of 5 years and jump between the different years that we've discussed. That's okay. Like, I'm not saying you have to start at the zero and go all the way up. You might have already had a business for 10 years and trying to improve and increase your programming ability. So you do some of the skill sets of the third year or whatever, or even use this template to market to new personal trainers to work under you, whatever. Doesn't matter. What I do want to really stress is there's 3 things that really matter at the minute in this, when you're at this 0 to 4 year level. It's your ability to program, your ability to market, and your ability to sell. Massively important. If my program, and I've spent my 2 years, my first year, my second year, making my program absolutely dynamite, as good as I can get it, answering and solving the majority of problems that people are having in my niche. And I know it works, and I know if someone sticks to it, it will blow people out of the water. And it's an unbelievable deal. I might be able to get them their result, give them nutritional education, give them gym space, give them a group program, give them all this stuff that's worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a reason, and make money off it myself. That's awesome. If your program is unbeatable as far as what it offers, it's hard. It's a piece of piss moving from that point. But a lot of people, particularly in this industry, finish their Cert 3, Cert 4 and go straight to trying to advertise and sell themselves, but they don't have anything to offer. That's the kick. Where it's a lot of people think, I've done my Cert 3, Cert 4, now I'm good to change the world, but you don't have any skills and you don't have a product. You have nothing. You've done 3 or 6 months of training at a full-time or part-time ratio. You just don't have anything to offer that anyone else does. And you certainly haven't invested enough time and energy into yourself to be able to sell a product. So your first 2 years should be about developing something that is unarguable. It is fantastic. It is worth its value 10 times over. So you can sell it for whatever you want, because no matter what the price point is, they're going to get 10 times worth of quality out of it. Now, that could be you do something really quickly, you do something really well, you solve a really big problem. I don't really care what it is, but finding your niche and solving these problems and building the program around it is what our main focus here is, because without that, the next 2 things don't really matter. If my program is absolutely fucking dynamite, it is easy as to market because people will get results. I just need to film the content, send the content out to the world, and let people know. Pour money into the thing so that I get the most amount of eyes on the business as I can. And then people will see that my thing works and it works bloody well. Then I just need to sell it. I tell you what, it's really easy to sell something that you wholeheartedly believe will help your client 100%. It's not hard to sell water to someone on a plane if they're thirsty. That makes sense? I can't sell you water at your house because you have a tap. There's no need for it. But I know that on a plane, if you have no water and I charge you $5 for a jug of water, you will buy it because thirst creates demand. the demand of your program is that it works 100% or a very, very high ratio of the time, or the deal that you have is so mind-boggling that it's frustrating. The client feels like an idiot not buying it. That is so easy to sell and market. It's not funny. So really focus on these three things in that order. You want you want to program, you want to market, and you want to sell. These are huge, but without the product, there's no point with the other two. Okay, you can start doing the other two as you're developing your product, because a man's got to eat and you got to make your money. That's why we have these systems. That's why I talk about with the fish. Sometimes I just need a fucking fish. So if you have all these programs off us or off your mentor, you can start marketing that straight away. But it's not your niche, it's someone else's. It's someone else's lotto ticket that worked. So with lotto tickets, it's only good once. If I win the lotto, but then take the money and give you the ticket, it's going to do nothing. So just taking someone else's programs and using them, they will get you so far, but eventually you're going to have to start educating yourself to fix your own niche's problems, okay? Going from general to specific. Massively. Now, make sure you stay in your scope of practice here, team. We need to be able to do our nutrition. We need to be able to program. We need to be able to sell. We need to be able to market, but we need to stay in our scope of practice as well. Okay, this is why the 4th year of our apprenticeship is hard, because there's a lot of moving factors, and we're in the coaching community. You end up being more of a jack of all trades and master of none. You end up being able to do a little bit of everything to raise your capital, and then you can start hiring people to do those specific roles for you. You might be the best programmer in the room, but not necessarily the best marketer. But you need to have some understanding to be able to hire someone who's good, as well as perhaps let's use nutrition, for example. You need to be able to be good enough for nutrition to provide a service that you can sell, and that works, but you don't necessarily need to be a nutritionist. Your Cert 3, Cert 4 will provide you some level that you can use for nutrition, but it won't make you a nutritionist. So it's really important that you learn your scope and learn how to sell a product within it, okay? You don't need to go and become a nutritionist unless you want to. That's fine. That might be the rub that you need to, the next step for you. But you can do a hell of a lot of good with the basic understandings of what you have from a couple of weekend courses or some generic content that we have access to as personal trainers, okay? You don't have to spend years and years and years getting degrees in exercise physiology and nutrition and psychology and all these things when there's so much available to you, as long as you understand the scope of practice that you're functioning in. Does that make sense? So a really important thing is find your scope of practice, and you'll find your line very, very quickly, and then master within it, okay? For example, if I was to run a 12-week, you yourself could run a 12-week nutrition course today. You just have to make sure that you're doing certain things, staying in your bubble, not prescribing people amounts of food, not telling them specifically what to eat. And this all comes from, you still have to have a knowledge of what they need to do. You just don't have to have the degree that says it. So this is where personal trainers come into a little bit of heat, because if I'm a rehab specialist personal trainer, but not a physiotherapist or an exercise phys, I can help people up to a point, and then I have to stop. Now, that's taking bread potentially out of a physiotherapist or exercise physio's mouth. But on the other side of the coin, I also can provide that service, so I can charge more for that service, meaning that I can help more people. So with rehab specifically, an area that I'm particularly passionate in, most of the issues that, let's say there's 9 issues that physiotherapists see on the regular, 6 of those 9 or 9 of those 9 didn't need referral. They could have been rehab from a personal trainer with the right certificate and the right education. So these are some of the rubs I ran into in my journey. In my 3rd and 4th year, I found that rehab and nutrition were the most common things. When it came to weight loss, it was movement and nutrition. When it came to muscle gain, it was movement and nutrition, and not getting hurt along the way. So I kept hearing these questions, these big beams of education of the biggest issues are being able to move, fueling the body right. Those are the things. So if I can't move properly, I can't do the things I need to do to allow the nutrition to do its work. So the 2 pillars I thought were nutrition and rehab. So those are the things I specialize in. And because of that, I'm able to market to those niches, people who want to be uninjured, live long, and eat well. Those are good things to be doing. That was my niche at a time. Okay. So I used the rubs to help find the thing I needed. But you have to stay in your scope of practice, or educate and study up so that your scope of practice improves. Massively important, okay? That's not to say you have to go to university and become a nutritionist, but it does mean that a certificate here and there is never a bad thing. Every dollar you make, you should be investing 20% of it back into yourself anyway. Well, that's not a set rule, but it's a rule I've always run into, is that my yearly wage, 20% of it went into my own education, because it's the only investment I've ever found that always pays back. It every single time gives me my money back. It doesn't matter. It's amazing. It always gives me my cash back every time. Excellent, team. So keep your eye out for all the free content we're giving. I really, really encourage you to use these things that we're providing for you. Free content is unbelievable, particularly when it's time and tested. But don't take our word for it. Do it yourself and watch how quickly your business improves. That's going to be my easiest sell. I'm so confident in what I'm showing you works that I don't need to push it hard, because you just need to do it once or twice, and I guarantee you that it will make a significantly positive change in your nutrition. Keep an eye out. We love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's because of you guys that this stuff is successful. If you like any of this content, at the minute it's all word of mouth. Tell other coaches, tell other personal trainers, and let's spread the word of what we're trying to do, which is coach coaches. We're trying to improve this industry, and without your help, it wouldn't be possible. So I thank you so much, and reach out to me I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm happy to help you as much as I can. Let's make a difference, team.